All right, listeners, welcome back for another deep dive. You guys sent in some pretty interesting lyrics this time around, and, well, let's just say we're going to be getting into some pretty deep stuff today.
Yeah, definitely going to be a fascinating one for sure.
Yeah. So the song we're looking at today has got some lyrics that really make you think. The artist sings about wanting to hang with you till I get some poon.
Oh, wow. Okay, so right off the bat, we're dealing with some pretty direct language here.
Yeah, not exactly subtle. But that's kind of what makes it so interesting, right? I mean, on the surface, it seems like a pretty straightforward statement of desire. But when you dig a little deeper, it raises all sorts of questions about motivation and how our desires shape the way we interact with other people.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. The song's basically saying, hey, I'm going to hang out with you until I get what I want. It puts this really interesting spotlight on the idea that our desire for something, in this case physical intimacy, can actually influence our choices about who we spend time with.
Yeah, like, are we really just hanging out with people because we genuinely enjoy their company? Or are there other, maybe less conscious motivations at play?
Right, and it makes you wonder how often we might be doing this without even realizing it. Like, are we always fully aware of the reasons why we're drawn to certain people? Or are we sometimes driven by desires that we haven't fully acknowledged even to ourselves?
It's kind of like we're all playing this game where we're trying to figure out what the other person wants while also trying to get what we want.
Yeah.
And sometimes those desires might be in conflict or at least not totally aligned.
Exactly. And that's where things can get really complicated, because if we're not honest with ourselves about what we want, it can lead to all sorts of misunderstandings and mixed signals, which can ultimately make it harder to form genuine connections.
Yeah, totally. So, on the one hand, you could argue that the song's just being brutally honest, like it's cutting through all the BS and getting straight to the point. But on the other hand, it does kind of make you wonder if that kind of bluntness is always the best approach, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as intimacy.
Right. It's definitely a delicate balance. I mean, honesty is important,
Yeah.
but so is tact and sensitivity. And I think the song kind of forces us to confront that tension. Like, where's the line between being upfront about our desires and being respectful of the other person's feelings?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I don't think there's any easy answer.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this whole discussion so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It's forcing us to think about these really complex issues that we often avoid talking about.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, I think that's the real value of these deep dives. They give us a chance to explore these kind of uncomfortable but ultimately really important questions about human nature and how we relate to each other.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, I think the big takeaway here is that even something as seemingly simple as a song lyric can open up a whole can of worms about desire, motivation, and the complexities of human connection.
Yeah, and it leaves us with a lot to think about. Like, how aware are we of the forces that are driving our own actions? And are we being honest with ourselves and others about what we really want?
Big questions indeed. And ones that I think we all need to grapple with. So listeners, keep those questions in mind as you go about your week and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.